As a show, Danny Phantom has had its fair share of great episodes and interesting concepts. It is one of the first shows of its time to have a long-lasting linear arc following through from episode to episode, allowing lore and consequences to follow. However, I believe Bitter Reunions is the spiritual pilot of the show, despite the handful of episodes before it. Although Mystery Meat being categorised as the pilot, I would argue it's nothing more than a stereotypical villain of the week flick, with small amounts of world building added as well. Then you might be asking yourself, what is so special about this particular episode? Well, it gives us our first real look at the main antagonist of the story and builds on the lore and existing characters of the show. Bitter Reunion gives us a great introduction to Vlad Masters and his ego Vlad Plasmius, Danny's archenemy and an interesting villain, whose fate is very much mirrored with Danny's himself. He too is a walking experiment, a spliced half-human half-ghost hybrid created by the incompetence of Jack Fenton, Danny's father. Unlike Danny, Vlad was left scarred and enraged by the accident and vowed a lifetime of pain and vengeance against Jack. At surface level, it seems fairly cliché in one note to have a villain hold a grudge like this, but the episode explores the personal side more coherently. The cold open to the episode leads with an intriguing hook. Danny proudly announces that for once he will make it home before his 10 o'clock curfew, when he notices some talking ghost birds who attack him. Danny finishes up the fight quickly but realises he is late by a few measly minutes, which his parents aren't happy about. Jack suggests that Danny accompany them to their old university reunion at Vlad's mansion as a way to better connect with him, and learn more of what it was like for his parents when they were teenagers too. Which is quite a good plot point, it's a good opening. Once they arrive at the mansion, they are greeted by Vlad himself, which is an interesting scene. At surface level, Vlad seems like a very generic if slightly confident host, taking an interest in the family, though it becomes clear very quickly that he has real feelings for Danny's mother, and that's where a great deal of his resentment towards Jack comes from, that the accident he endured cost him a potential life with Maddie. Vlad is a very interesting character. Being a man with a dual identity, it seems each half is an eternal struggle. Okay, both halves are definitely controlling, but each identity seems especially exaggerated, which is definitely a good thing. As his human half, he is desperate for the love of Maddie and the need of a family to call his own, which makes a lot of the interactions with Danny all the more interesting, while on the other hand, his ghost half is bent on ruling both the ghost zone and the human world as a malevolent dictator. It would have been all too easy to have both forms want and do the same thing, a bit like Danny's hero complex is present with both of his halves. Back to the plot. Danny is awoken in the middle of the night by the same ghosts he fought before arriving at the mansion, which is a great callback and tightens the overall plot. It also adds a sense of mystery around the mansion and who Vlad could be from the spectator's point of view. Danny is then met by Plasmius and the two have a very uneven fight. It highlights the difference in skill levels between the two and definitely proves that there is an evil presence within the mansion. However, the one piece of credit I will give the scene is that it kind of reverts the audience expectation. Upon first watch, it is implied that Plasmius will turn into Masters and Danny is met with the realization of who he is. But instead, after badly losing the fight, Danny is forcibly turned back into his human state and Vlad seems shocked by this revelation. The rest of the episode is pretty expected of the genre. Masters asks Danny to collect a present for his father from another room, where he is met by the ghost half who traps him within that room. The best part of this interaction is an almost desperate Vlad, offering to teach Danny and nurture him, almost like an adoptive father. Yes, you could make the argument that the kind of mentor role is played out, but given it's established that his deepest desire is to have a family, it works within the context. Not to mention having Danny use that weakness as a weapon against him in future episodes. The only downside to the episode is how weak the conclusion is. After taking over Jack's body, Vlad starts attacking and terrorizing the reunion party which he organised. Danny is able to escape with the help of a friendly ghost, which again is kind of an underwhelming escape route if I'm being honest. He is then able to remove Vlad from Jack's body and the two of them arrive at a temporary stalemate. It is pointed out by Danny that his family will be able to accept him as a ghost no matter what, but any fictional chance Vlad thinks he might have with Maddie would be shattered by that revelation. At which point Vlad concedes and leaves for now, ending the episode. What I appreciate most about this episode is the tightly written build-up to who the prime antagonist of the show will be. There isn't too much of a reliance on the Monster of the Week plot, plus it offers an interesting insight into Jack and Maddie as characters, while also clearly showing Vlad's motivation going forward. If you like this video, then please subscribe and comment. I'd love to hear what all of you have to say.